All right, ladies and gentlemen, happy World Renowned Wednesday to you. It is the first week of the month of July, first week of the second half of the year, which means that we are right where we need to be. And so I was excited to cover this information. I jumped on, and you all received the screenshot of the board actually earlier today, right? Because I was so excited. But then something happened and it sort of took some of the wind out of my sail. And it's not because of anything that you all did, it's not anything that I did. It is because something that one of my clients, or should I say, former clients, did not do. And so here's where I want to remind you all of what you see here on the board right now. It works if you do. Okay. So this process works if you are committed to doing the work. So we're going to spend our time today looking at a couple of things for us, or looking at a couple of things that we as business owners, that if we do them, they are going to yield some fantastic results in all of our businesses and ultimately our lives. But here's what I have to do first. My first responsibility on this journey to being world renowned is to offer cautionary tales, right? To let you all know and learn from the mistakes of our peers, our colleagues, right? Why? So that you don't have to have the same experience that they did. So I'm going to share my screen, and don't worry, all names have been changed, but there are no innocent people, okay? And so the reason I say that is because when you look here on my screen, you're going to see an email that I received from one of, as I said, my former clients. And she was doing everything right. She wanted to get to an elevated level in the real estate game. She wanted to be at the top of this global real estate. And so we worked together for about 2.5 months. And then, as you can see, that things started working. So she was traveling outside of the country, got some leads, and she was excited about it. But I want you to see what happened. All of a sudden, she started to experience this thing called success and life. And the very thing that she asked for, being able to travel and generate leads, ultimately kept her from experiencing long-term success. And why do I say that? Because then she started to say, well, I will return in 3 weeks, and can we pick back up? So the momentum that we had built, we lost it. But here's what I want you all to see. In only a matter of months, she started getting commercial leads. Now, we're just talking real estate, but I want you to understand, especially with what we're going to look at tonight, it is vitally important, because then referrals started coming through. And here's what referrals are. Referrals are someone who says, I believe in you and what you do so much that I'm going to put my reputation in your hands. And we know we live and die by referrals. But then here's what she wanted to do. Neil, I want to take up a place, grab my seat at the leadership table. Fantastic. I know exactly how to do that. We're going to use our 3 C's. We're going to turn our thoughts into actions. We're going to make sure that we're published. But what happened? The moment got too big. I was sent an email to become a global NAR ambassador. Ladies and gentlemen, understand there are 1.4 to 6 million realtors. There are less than 20 ambassadors for NAR. I missed the deadline. I wanted to ask your advice on that. Well, here's my advice. I'm sorry to tell you, but you have missed your opportunity. And here's why I want to start with that. Remember the whole idea of turning thoughts to actions. I want to make sure that you are, when you have that thought and when there is an opportunity to act, that you act in the lifetime of that opportunity. For my former client, here's what I know. I know that I cannot bring her back on as a client. Why? Because the biggest opportunity she had, she dropped the ball. And if someone shows you who they are, my dad would always say, believe them the first time. So I'm going to encourage you all to understand that if it's going to work, this process of being world renowned in whatever area you want to be is going to work if you work it. But here's what I want to encourage and challenge you with. We have to be prepared for the opportunities. The opportunities, ladies and gentlemen, are going to come faster than you expect. I know some of you on here, you started planning and you started putting some of the little pieces in place. Next thing you know, you look up, an opportunity is knocking at your door and you're like, what are we going to do? I'm like, what do you mean? What are we going to do? This is the stuff that we worked for, the stuff that we prayed for. We're going to open that door. So up until this point, so the previous 2 weeks, we've been looking internally. We've been looking at ourselves. Hopefully, you've done some of the work to figure out who you are, what's your story, how you're going to weave that into your business. What are some of the highlights, lowlights? What are you going to share? You looked at the connections, the competence, and then you looked at that final C, which is character, connections, and competence. So we want to make sure that those pieces are there. We've 7-11 forward, or we've at least put those pieces in place. And then my hope, my belief is that if you're serious about this thing, you have started the process of getting published, if with nothing else, with Canvas Rebel. So here's what we're going to do today. I'm going to ask you this question, and we're going to have some conversation. Who is your ideal client? Do you know who you specifically want to work with and why? And so here's what happens. Many owners never ask this question. Many entrepreneurs never ask this question. Now, many of us ask the question, who is my client? What we forget to do, this word right here, this is the key. Who is your ideal client? Do you know who specifically you want to work with? Here's the mistake that we make. Here's a mistake that if we do this piece right here, if we start right here, ladies and gentlemen, this is the question that changes everything that you do with your business. This is what gets people lined up to do business with us. Why? Because when we figure out who our ideal client is, we stop asking the wrong questions. So many of you up to this point, and the reason I can talk to you is because I am you, not was. I am you right now. And here's the question that we often ask. Who is my client? Who is a client, right? Many of us are looking for business and deals right now, and we think that any deal is a good deal. That's wrong. We get so stuck in looking for a client that we never ask the right question, and so therefore we never move in the right direction to find our ideal client. Now, here's where everything we're going to do is going to be around our ideal client, which means that you and we're going to have to identify a niche or a micro niche, right? So for me, I started with the niche of real estate, and then it was too broad. And then on the real estate side, I said I want to be the listing specialist, still too broad. Single family homes, too big. What did I say? Single family, waterfront, or homes in with acreage in 6 different zip codes. That's it. That's how I have made a lot of sales and commission dollars, by only focusing on single family waterfront or single family with acreage in 6 zip codes, nothing else, right? So now I've taken my ideal client and I've broken that all the way down to a very specific, not even niche, but micro niche. And I know we want to be everything to everyone, but when that happens, we lose focus. And we'll talk about the difference between the red and the green. So here's what my micro niche is in the coaching and speaking world. I only work with, my goal is to work with executives who are building empires. I also have a micro niche of minority owned service-based business people. If you all start to look and understand, when you see what I've done and how I built it, you're going to say everything he does is directly targeted, directly for his micro niche. What does that also mean? That means that I turn away a lot of people. That means that if you're going to do this right, you're going to have to ignore social media. You're going to have to ignore your friends, your colleagues, your peers, your competition telling you what you should do. You're going to have to ignore your coach saying, have you thought about this? You're going to say, yes, I did, but it is outside of my desired niche. And here's what we're going to do. Once we identify who our ideal client is, you all know I like to put those dollar signs for my S's, right? PPS. Now, some of you have probably heard of PPS if you've been with me for some time, but here's what our PPS is. After we talk about building our brand, you all remember from previous sessions where I said your number one goal is to start building your personal brand, right? After that, your goal is to identify your ideal client and then become a PPS for them. And here's what a PPS is: professional problem solver. You want to obsess over solving the problems of your ideal clients. Here's what I will tell you, ladies and gentlemen. The problems of your ideal client are not the same as the problems of the general marketplace. Okay, your ideal clients probably have specific challenges. They have specific needs. And so here's what we want to do. Once we identify our ideal client, we're going to obsess over becoming a professional problem solver for them. And here's what that means. That means that you are going to have to answer questions in the right way. And it's going to be them focused, right? You're going to focus on what they need or want from you. Do you know what your ideal first? Do you know who your ideal client is? We have to dive in there. We have to drill in. Do you know what your ideal client needs or wants from you? Do you know what they're afraid of? How can you improve their situation? Now, many of us are in sales, or we're entrepreneurs, or we're business people, owners. Why? Because we are in it for us. And so let's just jump to this red focus right here. And the reason I have the red and the green is simply because red means stops, green means go. Red are liabilities, greens are assets. And so here's what I want you all to think about. I want you all to think about anything here. If it's red, the reason why we have the red focus is our focus is wrong. And our focus is wrong because we are focused on ourselves, on our well-being. If we have the wrong focus, we're going to ask the wrong questions. If we ask the wrong questions, what can we expect? We can expect incorrect answers. And then based on these incorrect answers, we're going to have faulty results. And why is that? It's typically because we started with the wrong focus, and the focus was you. And the focus was that you brought something to the marketplace that you wanted them to have. Now, I'm not smart enough, right, to figure out all of marketing. But here's what I am smart enough to do. I am smart enough to ask people what they want and then give them what they want. I'm not here to make you change your mind about what you want. When I'm here to give you all what you want. This course, this content is promoted, blasted out to over 30,000 agents, 30,000 business owners. There are a handful of us. There are a few thousand who watch the videos after the recording, right? But out of 50, 30, 20,000, it's very small. So what I do is I don't focus on me. I don't say, well, here's what I have. You must take it. Why? Because I know as much as you all like me, you don't really care that much. And here's what I would tell you. The marketplace, the consumers, the unideal client, the general marketplace, they don't care about you. They don't care about your bills. They don't care about your passion. They don't care about your project or your brokerage or company or any of that. Why? Because we as human beings are self-centered. Here's what I will remind you. Everyone is the center of their own universe. Have you all came to that realization and accepted it? It means that when I look at you, if we're face to face, I'm the center of my world, just like you are the center of your world. So if you come in looking thinking that you are the center of your client's world, you're automatically wrong, which is going to cause us to have the wrong focus. We're going to ask the wrong questions, get the wrong answers, and then have faulty results. But what if today we start looking at our ideal client? We start obsessing over their problems by becoming a professional problem solver, and then we have the right focus, which is what? Them. And here's what we know about individuals when it comes to them. Our clients, customers, prospects, our ideal client, they are heavily invested in themselves. You all are here not for me. You're here because you are invested in yourself, your business. So this is what I want to remind you all. I told you that we're going to do this live case study. So you all are seeing firsthand how this is playing out. You all are not here because you care about me. You are not here because you want me to make sure I have viewers or to be the audience on the recording. You're here simply because you are invested in you, right? Because you see value in what's being offered. And so now my focus is right. Now I'm asking the right questions. Well, what are these business owners? What are these entrepreneurs wanting to do? Right? So when I worked with my former client, I said, well, how can I help her? What does she really want out of this coaching relationship? What's her goal? I asked the right questions. We got the right answers because I started peeling back. So when you ask your clients the right questions, for instance, for my real estate agents in here, the wrong question is, how can I make more money? The right question is, how can I find buyers and sellers who need to take advantage of this real estate market? How can I find sellers? For instance, ideal client for me is going to be either a global buyer coming into the U.S. or an affluent individual here in the U.S. looking to sell their property. That's what I'm looking for. They are not going to be asking about FHA loans. As exciting as the Hometown Heroes program is and the funds rolling out, that's not a question that my ideal client is asking. So now when I ask the right questions, I get the right answers. And then what is that going to lead to? The proper results. And as business owners, the proper results means that we are going to have income in our pockets. We're going to be able to have cash flow and we're going to generate income and have more opportunities come to us simply because we are focusing on the right thing, asking the right questions, getting the right answers, and then experiencing the proper results. So this is what I want to ask you to think about when you're considering who your ideal client is. Who or what influences their decision-making ability? So if you are going to be working with your ideal client, after we ask some of the right questions, we become a professional problem solver. We want to say, well, what's going to impact their decision-making ability? Who is going to impact their decision-making ability? Is it going to be their boss? Is it HR? Is it going to be the budget that they have? Maybe it's going to be fear or procrastination. Maybe it's going to be their spouse or their kids or the time of year, right? Because now I am starting to know who my ideal client is. Then here's your job. You know, one of my favorite books says, study to show thyself approved. So you have to do your research. How much do you know about the people that you want to work with? Do you know where they work? Do you know what they drive? In real estate, if you all have hung out with me for any amount of time, you know that we can use things such as RPR, the Institute for Luxury Home Marketing, the Knight Frank Report. All of these are going to be resources for us to leverage to find out about our ideal client. So here's what I will tell you. When I ask you, who is your ideal client? What do they like? What keeps them up at night? What are their challenges? I don't know is an unacceptable answer. If you do not know who your ideal client is, if you don't know what their pain points are, if you don't know how to exceed their expectations, here's what I'm going to tell you. You should probably change your ideal client. Okay. And I'll explain why here in a moment. So here's where I want you to think this week. Where can you find info about your ideal client? Is it going to be from some professional association? Is it going to be from some magazine or periodical, something like that? Do you need to get with the Chamber of Commerce? Do you first need to identify who your ideal client is and then go in to decide how you can do your research on them? I know I'm using Knight Frank reports. I'm using a lot about lifestyle, because what we must remember is that people have choices when it comes to working with us. And we'll talk about those choices just a little bit later tonight. But it's important that once we identify our ideal client, we start becoming a professional problem solver for them, that we keep our focus in the right place. And that is going to be on them, where they're heavily invested, and not on ourselves, because no one really cares. Now, here's a big question. Once we identify our ideal client, this might be the biggest question in this thing that we're doing. Are you capable of exceeding their expectations? Whoever your ideal client is, are you capable of exceeding their expectations? And here's where Uncle Neil is going to tell you. If the answer is no, either be able, increase your skill, get to the point where you can exceed their expectations, or don't service them at all, right? So you either, the big question is, can you exceed their expectations? If the answer today is no, either increase your skill or change your ideal client. Right now, today, good enough is no longer good enough. With Amazon and the time frame and McDonald's bringing food out to your table, just showing up is no longer good enough. If you cannot exceed expectation, you are going to lose slowly. Right? I mean, you might be good at what you do. You might come in and meet their expectation, but did it have that je ne sais quoi? Did it have something special? And here's typically how we can exceed expectations. I'm going to give you all the shortcut that helped my former client make it to the top in only 3 months' time, when those who are not following this process, where it's taking them 7, 8 years, ladies and gentlemen, here's what we do. Deliver an exceptional experience. Now, I don't doubt that you're good at what you do, at sales, at maybe whatever it is, owning the business, delivering on your product or service. But are you delivering an exceptional experience? Right now, we know that as human beings, we are experienced creatures. Why do people go to Disney year after year after year? Why do people go to Vegas or out of town on cruises? It's not because they didn't have anything else to do. It's for the experience. And so now you, as an entrepreneur, as a small business owner, you aren't competing with your competition. You're competing with the Disneys, the Amazon Prime. You're competing with Celebrity Cruise Line versus Carnival, right? Why is that? Because they understand that if they can deliver an exceptional experience, that means that they have exceeded the expectations of whom? Their ideal client. Now, here's what I will tell you, that you cannot exceed the expectations of everyone. And that's where we make mistakes. Why? Because we try to be all things to all people and end up being nothing to no one. And I know that's bad grammar, but I'm from Alabama, so that's okay, right? So if we try to be everything to everyone, we're going to be nothing to no one. So we want to identify our ideal clients, and then we want to ask the right questions so that ultimately we can exceed their expectations by delivering an exceptional experience. And here's what I want to tell you all. The experience begins before they start working with you. Do they have conversations about you outside of the face-to-face? When they look you up online, when they get testimonials or reviews, has the exceptional experience started then? When the transaction is over, when the deal is done, when they walk away, has the experience been so good that, as Walt Disney says, that they want to come again and bring their friends? If not, we might either need to increase our skill, talent, or our experience piece, or we need to change our ideal client. So here's what we're going to do right now. So when I talk about doing your research, here's what we want to do. There are only 4 things that we're going to focus on this week going into next week. I cannot stress enough. Turn thoughts into actions. In the email, you probably saw, hopefully you actually read the email, but then at the bottom, I said that information without execution is delusion. I don't want us to be delusional individuals. I want us to be transformation agents. That means that we have to turn a thought into an action as quickly as we can. I know some of you on here, I've seen some of the work that you all have done over the past 2 weeks, and I want to commend you. Here's why, because I know that good things have to come when you put good seed in good soil, and then we leave it to the Almighty. Great things are going to happen, and I'm going to show you all an example of that here in a moment. But here's what our 4 jobs are for this week. We have to be easy to find, study, work with, and refer. Now, I know you all got the screenshot of the photo of the board, but here's what I want you thinking. Is it easy for individuals to find you? Right? I'm talking socially, personally, geographically, physical location. Do you make it easy for people to find you? I'm going to encourage you. I don't want to tell anyone what they should do, but if you are not leveraging social right now in some way, you're making it harder for your ideal client to find you. There are people right now today who need what you have. They looked for ways to pay you and they couldn't find you, right? And unfortunately, that's true for all of us, myself included. So is it easy for people to find you? That's where I'm going to come in and say that we have to be where our ideal client is. Do you know where they are? Do you know the social media sites that they are on? Is it going to be IG or TikTok? I don't do anything. Well, I have a TikTok account, but my ideal clients are not on TikTok. My ideal clients on Facebook and LinkedIn. So those are the 2 social platforms that I go heavy on. I don't do much Instagram other than having some of my family and some of my real estate colleagues spy on me to see what's happening. But do you know where your ideal clients are? Do you know what charity organizations they're a part of? Do you know the events that they attend in person? Do you know which publications they read? Because if you're going to make it easy for people to find you, you have to be everywhere they are. This is why I encourage my clients to do some specific things, such as leveraging social media to send video messages to people, just saying, hey, happy hump day. I saw that yesterday you reported that you received an award. Congratulations. And we want to do that on video. Why? That connection, character, and competence piece. So that's why we leverage video for those 3 C's, and it aids us in our 7-11-4. Okay, so we want to make it easy to find us. Next, we want to make it easy to study us. Now, we did talk about that you must study to show yourself approved, that you must do your research, but we also understand, we know we're not so naive that we don't think that individuals are going to Google us. Is it easy for people to study you? Do you have enough content for people to say, I like her? I agree with his philosophy. I think that his stance on this is pretty good. Or are you nothing more than a name, a bad email, and a silhouette on a website, right? Because if that's who you are, by them not finding enough information on you, they've found everything they need to find. This is also where I want to encourage you. When it makes it easy to find you, let's also leverage this time to make it easy to study us. Our websites, whatever you do for a living as a business owner or entrepreneur, the About Us needs to be chock full of information about you. When I say about you, I'm not talking about what you do professionally. Yes, we know you're in real estate. We know you're in sales. We know you're an entertainer. I need that thing in there that's going to pull this to you. We still make decisions with our hearts, and then we justify them with our heads. right? You all are here not because it was a good business decision. You're here because you felt like this would offer benefit, and then you justified it here. Okay. So I want you all to put this piece into that about me, or show some way to highlight who you are, what it is that you do. Make it easy for them to study you. Part of that means that you want to speak their language. And I'm not talking about an idiom or an accent. I mean, what is their language? I just believe in the minority power when it comes to entrepreneurship. I believe in the plight and the fight and where we're going to go. I believe in entrepreneurism, right? And so when I speak that language, people who identify with that language, they're drawn to me. Those who don't believe in what I believe, they repel, right? They go the opposite direction. And I'm okay with that because I know that they are not my ideal client. We want to make their problems your problems to solve. Now, we don't want them to give us their monkey because their monkey, their circus, right? However, when we become that professional problem solver, that PPS, we do want to make their problems our problems to solve. And that's going to go into that study piece. So when they study you, they should say, she looks like she puts thought and effort into solving my problem of fill in the blank. He looks like he can answer the question that I had about fill in the blank. The thing that's keeping me up at night, I believe that he can identify, he understands. Why? Because we're speaking their language, that they know who we are, that they've studied us. So after we're easy to find and we are easy to study, this might be the hard one. Are we easy to work with? Right? Do you have processes and systems in place that make it easy for people to work with you? In real estate, I'm going to just talk about us for a moment. Do you have systems in place that for e-signatures? Do you have a video library of the entire FAQ buyer and seller process with all of the stuff going on right now? Have you gone in and gone to facts.realtor, 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 looked at all of the FAQs, put your face on camera, recorded that content, and now you position yourself as the voice for your people? Why? Because now it's easy for them to work with me. Have you gone in and created easy payment options if you're going to be taking payments? Or are you saying, well, it's all about me, I don't want to pay for Venmo or Zelle or whatever it is. You're going to do it this way or you're not going to do it, right? Well, here's what I told you about those options. Remember, I said people have options. So these are the 3 options that your customer, client, prospect has. One, they could do nothing. And the majority of people, they choose door number 1. I'm going to do nothing because the status quo is easier. Number 2 is I could do it myself. I don't know what it is that you do for a living, but here's what I can tell you. With the internet, with YouTube, we could do it ourselves, right? Almost anything, unless we talk about cutting ourselves open, okay? So if you in the healthcare field, much respect to you. But for instance, one of my really good friends, it was my wife's birthday, and he asked me, what are you going to do for entertainment? Well, I'm not going to do nothing because it's my wife's birthday. That's out of the question. I'm going to do it myself. Oh, are you now? Yeah, I have a Sony Bluetooth speaker. In fact, I'm going to show you all my Sony Bluetooth speaker because I do want to tell you that it was my wife's 40th birthday. So it was an important birthday. So important that I was going to use the SRX-B12, this speaker right here, for my wife's 40th birthday. So I could have, not done nothing. I could have done it myself. But thank God that I have such a good friend that he chose for me option number 3. And first door is what? Do nothing. Second door, do it yourself. Door number 3, they hire you, right? And so fortunately, I didn't have to embarrass myself at the 40th birthday with this right here. And the reason I'm telling you all about that was because my friend delivered an exceptional experience. And guess what? Why is that? Because he knew who his ideal client was. And this is where he operated right here in the green. He focused on, he had the right focus because it was about me and my wife and her enjoying herself. He asked the right questions. What are you doing for music? I got that under taken care of, brother. He got the right answer, and then the results were fantastic. And it's not because he started with himself, but because he knew that I was invested in my wife. So here's what I want to ask you. Are you easy to work with? And this is where we want to focus on delivering that exceptional experience. If you're easy to work with, well, let me back up. If you are easy to find, easy to study, and easy to work with, then you will be easy to refer. Many of us are asking for referrals and we do not deserve them, right? I know in real estate, in sales, we say, who else do you know that might want to buy or sell, right? We learned that even before we close the deal, right? Who else do you know that would like to have the same horrible experience because I was focused on myself, because I did not care enough about you or your situation or your fears that you want to invite them to this crap show, right? No, we never want to ask for a referral. Just hear me out. I've been doing this almost 20 years. We want to earn a referral. And the way you earn a referral is by being easy to find, easy to study, and easy to work with. If you are not 3 for 3, if you're not easy to find, study, and work with, you have not earned the right to ask for a referral. Okay? Because here's what I will tell you all about referrals. People only refer you if it's beneficial for them. People only refer you if it's beneficial for them. Why? Because I'm invested in myself. If I am a them, the reason I refer John Sachs and the John Sachs experience is because this has nothing to do with him. It's because when I refer him, it makes Neil look good, right? And so my benefit is typically, and this is going to be the benefit that your clients and customers, that your ideal client or customer is going to want. They are looking for social capital. By me referring John Sachs, I'm invested in me. I do not care about him that much. I love the guy, but I love me more, right? And if we're being honest, but here's what happens. I refer John Sachs because it's beneficial for me. All of a sudden, I get social capital. And then everyone says, Neil, thank you so much for referring John to us. He knocked it out of the park. And then what is John going to do? He's going to refer his florist, Lex and Roses. And then he's going to have DJ Mike T come and do all of the DJing with him. And then Mike T is going to say, dang. You know what? Sachs referred me, Lex and Roses, and then we get this upward spiral, and you look around, and everyone's winning. And yes, it looks like we're altruistic, but ultimately, whether we like it or not, it's simply because we are invested in ourselves. This is the same reason why we will not refer poor experience. This is why we will not refer individuals who would make us look bad. It's not because the service was bad or the experience was bad. It was because I would look horrible. So many of us as business owners, as entrepreneurs, we need to stop asking for referrals when it's focused on us, when we have not delivered an exceptional experience to make it easy for us to be referred. And so this is where I want you all to look at. I'm going to share my screen with you all really quickly, because this past week I was able to, or about a week and a half ago, I was able to do something. And so I'm going to leverage this. And if you all were on my social today, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But this is where I had instructor evaluation. Now, You never know how your instructor evaluations are going to go. Someone could just really have a bad day and just ruin your day by putting in some bad stuff. Okay. But I must tell you all, do you see your boy did pretty good? So I know what I'm talking about. But then I come in and all I did was screenshot this and I just had a video run. And now we come in and we start seeing amazing instructor. He knows the material very well and he knows how to teach. I would have no hesitation in taking another class that he was teaching. He was one of the best instructors. I would like to see what he will be teaching, or that he will be teaching more classes. So this is where, ladies and gentlemen, I made it easy to work with. The association that hired me now, I made it easy for them to refer me out. Why? Because I exceeded their expectations. I knew what their goal and challenge is. Yes, your boy came in with 98 one more time. Not saying I'm the best. I'm just saying that I'm better than everyone else. Okay. I always learn so much from Neil and his Alabamese. So if you know me, you know I'm always talking about me being multilingual. I speak English and Alabamese. What does this mean? I always learn so much from Neil. And the reason I put a double bold line under here is for you to understand what's being said. Always learn. What does that mean? It means that they are a repeat student of mine. It means that they see my name and they're going to go back and say, hey, whatever Neil is teaching, I'm there. Strongly recommend to hire more instructors like Neil. Well, I have bad news for them. They can look, but they cannot find more like me because I am a one-of-one. I am God's favorite. We should have him teach more classes here at blank. And then here's where I want you all to start looking at. Packed with great action tips. And the reason I highlighted this one in yellow, ladies and gentlemen, remember, I talked about my former client. She wanted to do this thing when it came to international business. We gave her opportunities. We put her in the right place, but she did not take the action. And that's why, as much as the information, or as good as the information is here, the action is what's going to separate the elite few from the mediocre many. Okay. And so as we finish, as we look at these last few things here tonight, I want to encourage you to leverage surveys. So are you taking surveys? Are you ballsy? Are you gutsy enough to ask people, hey, what did you like about the experience? What did you hate? Where could I improve? I know one of the things that people dislike about me is the very same thing that people love about me. I'm too much. I'm too animated. I'm over the top. I'm in your face. I challenge people. That's why we don't have 10 or 20,000 people on, because many of us don't like to be challenged. When it comes to choosing door 1, 2, or 3, we're going to choose door number 1 and do nothing. Or we lie to ourselves and we're going to say, I'll do it myself. I'll go on and look at the videos and take the classes, but I could hire a coach. I could log in on World Renowned Wednesdays. I could go in and do some of the assignments that's on his website, but it's easier to do nothing. And then I'm going to encourage you all to do something that I have been doing for years, and that is going to be leverage video testimonials. If I say it about myself, it is bragging. If someone else says it, especially on video, it is going to be a testimonial. And we know that video translates very, very well. So we're almost done with tonight. And so here at the bottom, you're going to see what we're going to cover next week. Okay. And so this whole idea of generation, conversion, ascension, and retention. Generation, conversion, ascension, and retention. That's lead generation, lead conversion, client or customer ascension, and customer retention, right? So the first two have to do with leads. And so that we're clear, each and every one of us are in the lead generation business. If your business does not have more leads than you could currently service right now, you are at the risk of going out of business. Just so we're clear, I'm telling you, my business, after I create my personal brand, everything I do is to generate more leads. So my referrals, the video, this right here is to generate more leads. My networking, me playing golf, my number one goal is to generate more leads. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are not focused here, if you are outsourcing, if you're leaving that up to someone else for lead generation, you are putting your business, your livelihood, and your future at the risk of failing faster than you know. So lead generation, lead conversion, then we'll look at client and customer ascension and retention. Those are going to be the pieces, the items that we're going to look at next week. And then you're probably asking, Neil, what are laps? Well, we are going to run laps next week. Don't worry, you could still just be here. I might come in some type of athletic gear so that we can run the laps here on the screen to be metaphorically and literally running laps. I'll tell you all what the laps are next time. So hopefully, I know some of you all are like, okay, Neil, go ahead and give me these laps so I can go ahead and get ahead. You know what? Let's do it. So laps, so that we're prepared. Laps has to do with the lead generation and lead conversion process, not with the client ascension and retention, okay? So laps, leads, appointments, presentations, sales. Leads, appointments, presentations, sales. I was going to put consultation because I like consultation more than presentation, but laps is not as nice as laps, okay? So leads, appointments, presentations, and sales. And if we do the generation and conversion right, we can make a living. If you lead generate and convert leads, you can make a living. If you can get your clients into client ascension, you can make a fortune. And then when you have clients ascending up the sales ladder and then you retain them, that's when you create an empire. And that's what we've been working on for almost 20 years. And so we have the processes, we have the systems. That's where we're going to dive in even deeper. So I want you all to think about where we've gone over the first 3 weeks. First, we went in, we started asking questions about who we are, what's our story. Last week, we looked at this whole idea of building or solidifying our foundation with those 3 C's, with the 7-11-4, making sure that we turn thoughts into actions, and everything was internal for the first 2 sessions. Now, we're going externally, and we saw some examples of the opportunities if we do this thing right, or the consequences if we see the opportunity and we are hesitant. If we procrastinate, those opportunities are not going to wait on us to act. So now we're external, we're client focused, not only client focused, but ideal client focused. Ladies and gentlemen, here's what I want to tell you. This is going to be hard for me to say. Some of you are working with people right now that you have no business working with. Some of you are looking for or speaking to customers or prospects that you have no business working with. Some of us are trying to squeeze water from a stone, and while I know it is possible because it was done in biblical times, it does not mean it is the smartest or the best way to build an empire here in this time. So I'm going to encourage you to do a lot of homework over the next week. Identify who your ideal client is. Make sure that you're asking the right questions based on the proper focus. You will get the right answers, which will lead to the best results. And that only happens if we focus on them and where they are already invested. And then as we focus on them, we want to ask the question, how can I deliver an exceptional experience? Can I exceed the expectations of the individual, the organization? Can you exceed the expectation of your family members, peers? Everywhere I go, I want to be the exception. I want people to say, man, every time we hang out with Neil in a social setting or if we're learning from him, I think I'm going to get an 8, but he gives me a 12, right? And so that's my hope. That's my prayer for you all. So I hope that you found this session beneficial, that you actually found some action steps that you are committed to taking over the next week. And I want to remind you that I love you, God loves you, and there's nothing you can do about it. And until the next time I see you or you see me, don't be average, be world renowned. Peace.